Let's take a closer look now at coalition politics at play in Tshwane, Joburg and Ekurhuleni. Tshwane Mayor Randall Williams on his way out. He says it's for the good of the DA-led coalition running the city. And even his coalition partners believe it is the right move. Of course, the Auditor General's report on the capital city made an adverse audit finding for the 21-22 financial year. Randall Williams, who became mayor in 2020, says he inherited a R4 billion deficit from the previous Metro government. Let's speak now to Michael Beaumont, National Chairperson of Action SA, and of course Action SA, one of the DA's coalition partners in the city. Michael, thank you so much for joining us. Clearly from the press releases from ASA, you feel it's the right move that Randall Williams is going. I wonder if you could talk to me about what happens now. He's leaving at the end of the month. There's sort of a caretaker, I think it's Michael Sutton, looking after matters until then. Talk to me about timelines and the process to get a new mayor in place.
Certainly, and I think just to be clear, Sally, and the entire multi-party coalition has welcomed the mayor's resignation, particularly because from our point of view, there has to be political consequences for an adverse audit finding, and it's not good enough for political leaders merely to point the finger at municipal officials. And I think from that point of view, we are very appreciative of the responsibility of the coalition, of the Democratic Alliance, and of Randall Williams in this regard. In terms of the timeline, municipal legislation puts a lot of power in the Speaker. The Speaker will have the prerogative of determining the timeline towards the election of a new mayor. And certainly we will be learning of the Speaker's thoughts in that regard. But I think we must be clear, this is a municipality that is in need of strong and decisive leadership. And every day that goes by without that kind of leadership is a problem. So from an Action SA standpoint, we are engaging our coalition partners to ensure that happens as soon as possible. I think in terms of our coalition agreement, Sally, it's important to understand that the Democratic Alliance was afforded the position of Speaker through the negotiations. And I think that is a position respected by all parties. Now is not the time to challenge these things. Now is the time to stabilize this government. But certainly the coalition agreement requires the Democratic Alliance to consult the multi-party coalition on any candidate they intend to put forward, because the multi-party coalition must satisfy ourselves that the individual being put forward is a fit and proper person to lead this municipality.
Yeah, so what I'm hearing you saying, and this is something that Wayne Sussman said when we spoke about the city, is that really if we look at Johannesburg, the mayor is out there and now it's the ANC, a coalition in power. Even though in Ekurhuleni, the Speaker, DA Speaker, won back his position through court action and the DA mayor is still in place. We don't know for how long. There's a lot of potential for holding the coalition in a strong situation in Tshwane. So are you saying that if the DA comes with the right candidate from their party, who's got the skills, who's got the ability, you don't mind if it's a DA person as long as it's the right person? This is not the time for horse trading within the coalition.
Absolutely. And Action SA, along with all of our coalition partners, signed a coalition agreement in that particular regard that indicated that it would be the Democratic Alliance who proposes a candidate for mayor. I think it would be the wrong time now for political parties to try and jostle for power. Now is the time to ensure that this coalition, as you correctly point out, what is likely to become the last of its kind in Gauteng, sustains for the next 5 years and is able to provide the residents of this province an alternative model for governance ahead of a 2024 provincial elections. But as you say, it has to be a meritocracy. It's got to be the right candidate being put forward with the right skills and experience. And that is something that Action SA will test. And if it comes forward in that form, we will get behind fully.
So if we look at what's happening in Joburg and Ekurhuleni, Joburg in particular, it's been a real defeat. What has happened to the coalitions? What has gone wrong? Because this really is a bit of a learning exercise for next year's election. And right now, things are not looking too strong within these coalitions that are meant to provide an alternative to the ANC.
Yeah, and that's a discussion that's going on between these political parties, and a discussion that Action SA wants to play a leading role, to say that coalitions are new in this country. They're new to political parties, to voters, to members of the media, and we need to adjust very, very quickly. And there's been this phase of adjustment. As you say, it hasn't gone very well in the early time. And what is necessary is for these parties to come together and demonstrate an ability to provide stable and effective leadership ahead of a 2024 provincial elections. Having instability in a local government context is definitely not ideal, but we need to understand ahead of a national and provincial election where instability has major economic consequences for the country, these things need to be sorted out very quickly. The bottom line, though, Sally, is that we need political parties to invest in the idea of an alternative to the ANC. If political parties can come together and develop a service delivery agenda around that and an agenda to fight corruption, this is the thing that we must fight for ahead of 2024.
I want to ask you about what happened in Joburg. We know that before the DA mayor was ousted, she was trying to get that 2 billion rand loan passed through, and it was consistently being blocked by the ANC and others. Now the ANC is essentially in charge again. My understanding is that that loan, we still need the money, that loan is now going to be approved. Can you comment on that and what you think about that?
Well, certainly. I think it's just typical of political parties like the ANC and EFF, political parties that took on a grandstanding type behavior when the multi-party coalition sought a loan agreement, which was part of the city's planned operating budget. And in order to politic, those parties were willing to deprive the municipality of the money that was required to deliver services. And that resulted in a decline of service delivery budgets as the last thing any political party should want to see, either in government or in opposition. But of course, now that those parties are in government, it's very much back to the business of a loan agreement. My understanding was even increasing the amount of money being sought for in the loan they originally had a principal decision against. And it speaks to how political parties conduct themselves, because whether a party is in government or whether a party is in opposition, there still needs to be the best interests of the residents at heart. And that's been fundamentally absent in the way in which the issue of this loan agreement has been dealt with. But Sally, we must also be clear. That loan agreement and the government in Johannesburg was lost because the coalition was collapsed. And Action SA has been very clear that it was the Democratic Alliance's national leadership decision-making that led towards the collapse of that majority for the loan and of the government as well.
All right. Thank you so much for chatting to us this evening. Much appreciated. Michael Beaumont, National Chairperson of Action SA, of course, one of the DA coalition partners in Tshwane, but crucially saying that with Tshwane really the only coalition still holding, they're going to put aside any differences within the coalition and support the right candidate, which may very well still be from the Democratic Alliance. Lots of learnings going on within coalition politics at the moment. Really a crucial time in our country. Do stay with us.